I was living in Miami. I was working as a auto mechanic for McLaren. So by all means, like, I had my dream job. I was working on multi-million-dollar cars, doing what I loved to do at the time, working with my hands. But I couldn't afford rent in Miami because when you're going through McLaren, you're apprenticing, you really don't make that much money. And kind of at the same time, I had stumbled into Zapier.
Welcome to Agents of Scale. I'm Wade Foster, co-founder and CEO of Zapier. On this show, I sit down with leaders transforming their work and their industries with AI and automation. Most weeks, I talk to execs in the C-suite, but today we're going to do something a little different. This is one of the people who's actually in the trenches implementing AI across dozens of organizations, from airlines to retail to influencers. Joe Zapiain's story is remarkable, not just for his personal transformation, but for how he drives AI adoption at scale for the companies he works with. Joe's story starts with living out of his car and working job after job until he's discovered Zapier, which unlocks a path that changes everything. And since then, he's become a force multiplier for businesses of all kinds, showing how the right tools in the right hands can change entire industries. Joe, welcome to Agents of Scale. So, Joe, you have this remarkable origin story. At one point in time, I think you were living in your car, you tried 32 different jobs. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. At the time, I was living in Miami. I was working as a auto mechanic for McLaren. So by all means, like, I had my dream job. I was working on multi-million-dollar cars, doing what I loved to do at the time, working with my hands. But I couldn't afford rent in Miami because when you're going through McLaren, you're apprenticing, you really don't make that much money. Yeah, the origin, I won't make it super lengthy, but the switch kind of flipped. I had gotten a job. I had previously worked in roofing. I was a door-to-door salesman at a roofing company. I'd worked a lot of different types of roofing jobs, and I had an old colleague of mine reach back out and be like, hey, I know you're living in your car, you should come back and do some estimating at our roofing company. And kind of at the same time, I had stumbled into Zapier when I started estimating at this company. So I was on my 2011 MacBook Pro in my car, bouncing back and forth between doing like estimating, writing estimates for roofs, and playing around with Zapier to try to like help some of my the marketing work I was doing for them get done.
Wow. Let's rewind the clock even further. You mentioned, working at McLaren, that's your dream job. Was that were you always into cars as a kid?
Oh yeah. I've always been into anything fast. So like the 32 different jobs is more now that I had. So I didn't go to college. I didn't do much in high school. I had a full-time job when I was a senior. I didn't switch a lot of jobs because I hated them. I was the kid at the movie theater. I was more interested in what was behind the door at the movie theater than what was going on with the movie. And I got exposed to Gary Vee too early, but I was always just like, taste, like, see what you want to do, figure it out. So I worked as a flight attendant. I worked as a bartender server. I worked training and breeding horses. I worked at a trampoline park. I was a professional skydiver for a long time. I still do that on the weekends. I was a firefighter for almost 5 years in Northern Virginia. I did a lot of stuff, and I never just had one job. I did multiple things, but I'd always loved cars. I had gotten done working a skydiving contract in El Paso, Texas. I was doing skydiving, and I was a nut farmer. So I operated this big machine that shook trees until all the nuts fall off. One of the largest pecan farms in the United States is in Merino, New Mexico. So I was doing that, and I was like, I don't want to work outside anymore on this farm. Skydiving's great, doesn't pay the bills. My sister lived in Miami, and I'd always loved cars. So I actually went to work at Enterprise, taught myself on YouTube how to pass a mechanics test, went to work at Enterprise as like a lube tire tech, worked into becoming a full technician. Then I applied at McLaren once I could, rub two bolts together and make a car. I shifted from Enterprise Fleet Mechanics to McLaren. And at the time, that was my dream, was to work on these cars that I never thought I would be able to afford. So long answer to say my dreams shift and move as time goes on, but at the time that was really what I wanted to do.
How did you, was this, through all these jobs, did you have a thought process, or is it just sort of like following whatever like interest comes your way? Like, how are you sort of maneuvering from, the nut farm to the cars to the skydiving to
Yeah.
the, whatever? Yeah.
It's a question my dad asked me a lot. 'Cause my dad's a systems engineer, so
Yeah, yeah.
he's he was early days of I mean, he was a coder before people knew what coders were, but not much honestly, and it's probably not to my credit. I mean, I went and did things based off of what sounded fun. I tried to focus as little as I could on what would make me money. I just wanted to do stuff that I thought was cool. I wasn't married at the time. I had kind of no bearing on. I knew like, okay, I want to maybe get into real estate. I want to do things that long term set me up for financial success. But most of all, I don't want to hate my life every day when I wake up. I care about that. So I would move in between things that brought me fulfillment. I mean, firefighting probably brought me the most personal satisfaction I'll ever get because there's nothing like helping people out of horrible situations. But yeah, it was just like, hey, this is really fun. I've learned a lot about hospitality from working as a bartender. Like, this is great. Now let's take that and let's go do something else that sounds fun,
What do you think you learned working across 32 roles that maybe somebody who only has worked in a handful of jobs?
Oh, man. It's so hard to distill that because it depends, but just people. There's so many types of people out there in so many different industries. It's just reading and understanding the way people think is probably the most valuable thing I got out of it. I could talk to somebody that works in a technical role and get along with them. If you're from the country and you grew up riding horses and milking cows, I can get along with you. If you work with your hands and you're very blue collar, I can get along with pretty much everybody. I think I learned a lot of empathy and perspective about where a lot of people were at from bouncing in and out of so many of these different industries. Because a lot of people where I worked with, they've been doing the same job for 15, 20 years, So I would say a tremendous amount of empathy and just people skills.
At the risk of making this like super philosophical, you see all these different types of people. Like, what do you think is there a common thread across all of these? That you're like, you know what, humans at our core, we're just X.
Yeah, I would say, and this is I don't know who said this, but it kind of rings true across whatever you're doing. People don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, I think that's a Maya Angelou quote, right?
Yeah, I can't remember. I read a lot of books now, so I try to like write down these quotes and stuff that I hear. But that kind of, if you want to talk about things that string through about people across all these industries, it tends to be that. Yeah. People, and even in my marriage, like my wife, people who I'm talking to, they very rarely care about the words that you say. How they perceive what you say and how what you say impacts them and makes them feel matters tremendously more than anything else.
Okay, so zooming forward again, we're at McLaren. You're living out of your car. You're in the church parking lot. You've got your MacBook Pro, and somehow you stumble across Zapier. Do you remember how you first came across Zapier?
I was thinking about that over the last few days. I had a friend of mine named Garrett Hayslip who runs a massive, kind of like Harmon Brothers style agency now. They do creative. And at the construction company I was working with, they had retained Garrett for some work, and he was like, yeah, we're going to use Zapier to take whatever marketing stuff and like put it into your Salesforce or whatever CRM you're using. And that was the second time that I had seen it, because I had seen it once before. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And I think the first time I had to do something was just like taking the title of like a Google Doc and dropping it into like some CRM somewhere. And I think that was like the first. I went into my Zapier and looked at the oldest edited one. I think that was the first one. Was one that was similar to that.
What were you doing that you needed to do that?
So, okay, at the time I was working really hard on social media, TikTok in particular. So I had blown up. I had not blown up, but I had 30, 40 million views on my profile, like 50,000 followers. Not tremendous, but I was doing like a lot with short form social in my personal life through all these different jobs and stuff, storytelling. And so the construction company I was working with was like, hey, you should help us with some of our marketing. Like, can you kind of peek in on this stuff? So I was getting into the marketing stuff, and then that's where I got connected with Garrett, and he was wanting to do some of the Facebook analytics stuff, zap it into our CRM.
Got it. And with Zapier, was it something that it just like immediately clicked for you, or
no?
Yeah.
No, not it. Well, once it clicked, it clicked. Like
Yeah.
once it made sense, then it's just like it was night and day. It was like I'm using a tool, and like it's like I'm pressing the gas in the car. I had bought a Udemy course on API integration, and I only did like 15 minutes of it. All right. And I basically got through CRUD, right? Create, read, update, delete. I understood that about how APIs worked and what an API actually was, and then it was game. It literally went from like one day I used Zapier this way, and there was some stuff I thought I could do with it. Then I understood what an API and what an HTTP request actually was, and then it was just like then it was just I just dove into learning and playing with stuff, and it was night and day. I mean my wife will tell you I just disappeared for like weeks.
Yeah. What were the problems you were solving before you sort of figured out the like, how to use an API versus after?
It was little stuff, right? At the construction company I was working with, and I had started using ClickUp at the same time. By the way, that was like the first API doc I ever read. Was like what you can do with ClickUp's API. It was like when a Google Doc is created, drop the title in here and put the link to the Google Doc in the task. When we have a new idea for and a Jasper had just come out, so I think I was integrating with Jasper before OpenAI like made its big splash with GPT. But it was like when we have a new marketing idea, create a template doc for brainstorming. It was a lot of like marketing,
Yeah.
content creation type of stuff.
Got it. And then, you sort of have this like wake up moment. Tell us a little bit about like how sort of life has changed for you, how work has changed for you once you sort of have this like big unlock. Like what are the types of jobs you're doing now? What are the types of problems you're solving? Yeah, give us a little bit of that. Like, hey, you're not living in your car anymore.
No. And I'll really try not to go down the rabbit hole with this because there's like a lot of ways to answer this question. I'll tell you I remember what I was actually doing when I uncovered this. So I was using, so ClickUp has a native form feature that like when you fill out a form, it creates a task in ClickUp. Okay. And one of the features there is like when form is filled out, call a webhook. At the time, I had no idea what a webhook was, right? But I learned that okay, call a webhook, I can trigger something in Zapier and like start a series of automations. And so what I wanted to do was I was taking like content courses and stuff because I was trying to up the company's social media game, trying to up my own social media game. And I would find YouTube courses and YouTube assets at times that I wanted to distill. So I was like, okay, I want to take an automation that I can take like a video, upload it to put it into ClickUp through a ClickUp public ClickUp form, and then it will transcribe it, distill it with AI distill it down for me, and then drop it in my workspace as like a knowledge base of things about content creation. It is actually still live. If you go to scrolladdict.com, it's a redirect to a ClickUp form. This is like the first automation that I ever made that meant something to me. It's still up. So took me, I think, like 5 days to build that. And at the time it was like 13 steps. It was like, oh my gosh. It was like the biggest automation I'd ever done was 13 steps. And I remember seeing like the little 13 plus thing, and I was like, holy crap, like this is huge. It's a 13-step automation. I'm using 3 different app APIs. It was like a huge deal. And it worked. Like I could go to scrolladdict.com at any point, drop in a link or I forgot a video that I wanted to distill, and it would create some different assets for me to use and store it in ClickUp. And during that process, I had started to read the OpenAI API docs, and I started to read more deeply into the ClickUp docs. And then I started to like really understand what APIs are. Like I'm borrowing the transmission from the McLaren, the body from the Chevy, the wheels from the Corvette, like all these different things that I can make. I was like, scrolladdict.com is an app. Like I built a little mini application, no databasing, no front end, no back end, no middleware. Like I'm not using my own API servers. Like I'm building all this stuff. I'll tell you about that later, like the companies I have right now. But I just built a little mini app called scrolladdict.com that takes, and like once I did that and I realized I'd created like a mini app, I literally remember that day like it was yesterday, because I sat back in my chair and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can do some damage with this. Like I could build things with this. And so kind of how things changed from that till today was I went to some of the influencers I had at my network at the time, I went to everybody I could find. And one person in particular that made a huge difference. And like, it's crazy that like one connection, one conversation can change the trajectory of your life. And I went to every influencer that had open DMs and I was like, hey, I'm building automation. I'm not very good at it yet, but I'd love to do some work for free. And I went around and begged people to do work for free, as many people as I could. And I stumbled across this guy named Christopher Claflin, and we got along really well. And I built some like, not so advanced for me now, but back then I built some really advanced like CRM automations for him that helped him manage part of his business and part of his editing workflow and part of his media workflow, which I had a little bit experience with at the construction company. And he ended up being contacted for a brand deal by ClickUp, oddly enough. And so he plugged me in with one of the founding members at ClickUp directly. And that connection completely changed my life. Because then I showed him, here's all the form apps that I've built in ClickUp. Here's all the stuff that I've built with your ClickUp API, with Zapier. With ClickUp and Zapier, I can turn ClickUp into anything anyone wants it to be. And I had completely blown it out of the water for Chris Claflin and a few other people. And I was just, again, please let me do free work. You don't have to pay me. And at the end of the day, these guys were like, please let me pay you. You've saved me so much time. And so now through all of those different types, like I hate like if you're good at something, never do it for free. It's like, that's so stupid. Like do stuff until people, like if you're good enough at it, people will want to pay you to do it. And that was my experience here. Anyway, so ClickUp, I actually worked at ClickUp for a while. I got a head title at a $4 billion tech company by being good at Zapier. Like nothing on my resume with tech. Guy in the car, in the Lincoln Town car, in the church parking lot, I knew Control-Alt-Delete. That was it, right? By the time I had gone through my Zapier learning process and landed a head title at ClickUp, I was much more advanced than that. I was writing my own HTTP requests, JSON, like I think in JSON now. I think in input-output. I think in CRUD. And I landed a head title there. I ended up leaving ClickUp. Great relationship with them still. I work with them all the time. I left there because my automation business was picking up and I couldn't meet the demand that I had in my own business while still working at ClickUp. So life is just, I have 2 children now, 1 on the way. I'm married. I have a house. I paid for my own wedding. The amount of things that have changed in my life in the past 4 years, going from Control-Alt-Delete, I know Task Manager, to like, I have like ad gloriam Dei, it's Latin. I have a portfolio of companies now because I do kind of like tech venture capital where companies will approach me. I will take large equity in their business and do all of their automation, all of their scaling. I build web applications now. Like I have a web application building team that just does web apps that talk to my automations. Like I have this whole system now where I have equity in all these different companies that I never would imagine I would have equity in. And it's all because like when I started this thing, I just kept asking questions. And Zapier like paved the way from very, very simple, like, okay, here's a trigger and here's an action, and you can just understand it as pushing the pedal. But if you want to like look at the brake lines and understand how an ABS pump works and a fuel system works, and you want to learn the different types of gasoline that can power your car, like you can build your own car that goes way faster than anyone you could buy from the store, and people want to buy that one from you. And it just turned into that, and I just kept learning and asking questions, and it was like it moved so far beyond basic zaps and everything. But Zapier is my foundation really for all of my technical knowledge, which is crazy. Anyway, that was a really long answer. I don't even know if I answered the question that you asked.
No, that was great, Joe. Congrats, man. That is super. It's remarkable. I think one thing folks will be interested in is, you're talking about APIs and webhooks and JSON, and you're using all these technical terms. When you started, you didn't know any of these things. Like, walk us through like how quickly it took you to, go from, okay, I'm just like checking out Zapier, checking out ClickUp, checking out some of these tools for the first time to like you're sort of like expert, what feels like expert level automation wizard at this point in time.
Yeah, so good question. And it doesn't fit and I think this is the thing that maybe people who know me really well, like Joe as a software company does not mesh. Like, I'm an adrenaline junkie. I like running into burning buildings. I like jumping out of airplanes. I like riding motorcycles. Like, these are things I'm passionate about. And there's something about, like, I loved to play Legos when I was a kid. I still love Legos. Like, I buy my son Legos and I build them with him, and it's so much fun. And like, why is that fun? It's because like the endorphins, like the rush you get when you build something and it looks the way that you imagined it to. You created something that didn't exist before you put pen to paper or put your thoughts into the machine. When you built something that didn't quite exist before, there's like, and you get a 200, right? It works, right? There's something about that is super exciting. And early on in Zapier, I was using a system I didn't quite get, but I would somehow make it work. And when I would get the 200, when I'd get the positive response, when the thing worked, it just felt so good. Like, it felt so exciting that, like, I'd be laying there in my bed and I would go, oh, wait, I could try to build that. I'd run to my laptop and spend 3 or 4 hours building something, and then it worked. It was like, oh, that's so cool. And it would get me so, I would get so excited I couldn't sleep because I have this idea that I can bring to life like that. And it was amazing. And so it's like, okay, first thing is, if you're not excited about something, there's no amount of like forcing it that you could probably do that's going to make you like it. You know, like the fact is like, I'm excited about this. I'm excited about software now. I'm excited about automation because it allows me to be creative in the way that I enjoy being creative, and it creates a positive feedback loop for me. And something that's super powerful is like the way I use GPT. Like, I have the GPT app on my phone, and you can do the voice thing, and you can just talk back and forth with it. And I would spend an hour every day. Okay, tell me about an HTTP versus HTTPS, and what's the difference between Next.js and Node.js and React, and what is CRUD, and I'm getting a 500. What is an internal server? What is a server? What's a backend server? And I would just talk. I still do this. It's been like imagine years of just going back and forth with a teacher and not using AI to like replace you, but to use it as like an expert tutor, expert college education that I never got. Now I can just every day just talk back and forth with AI and help me learn Zapier, help me learn automation, help me learn APIs and what this different stuff means and how I can be more creative. Like Socratically, like ask me questions and pull this stuff out of me. It just got me more excited because when you can ask questions and kind of build a story in your head, like that's what to me gets me excited, and what gets people excited is like you ask the right question, you get people to start creating relationships in their head, and then you get that 200, you get that positive feedback loop, and it just feels amazing. So I just never stopped learning. I didn't go to school. I had nothing going for me in particular. Like I wasn't getting an inheritance. No one was paying for my school. I paid my way through everything. So from my experience, like you read and you learn and you dig and you dig and you dig. You don't think 9 to 5. You don't think when is this going to end. You just think learn as much as you can. And that's been my philosophy with skydiving. That's been my philosophy with farming nuts. That's been my philosophy with working on cars, is like there's always someone better than you. So if you can't get excited about the learning process, you're not going to make it very far. And that's what the learning process got me really excited with this, because it just allows me to continue to expand my creative ability. Yeah. And money comes with that. Like I haven't even talked about the money, but that's not like that comes as a result.
Yeah, it's the output. It's not the input.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
You say, I don't have an education, and I come from, much things, but it's pretty clear, like listening to you talk, you do have an education. You're constantly learning. And maybe, I don't know if it, came from all the jobs you worked or if it was there before. You have this like innate curiosity. And you're constantly asking, wow, how, why, etc. And then, these tools come along, things like Zapier, things like ChatGPT, that allow you to just like keep asking more questions and start to apply your knowledge in interesting ways. And all of a sudden it feels like there's a big unlock, that it's like, hey, I can now go do a whole bunch of things that before maybe felt out of reach. Maybe can you talk a little bit about like how your own view of your own capabilities have maybe shifted over time?
That's really, so I think that's a great point, because I think we're all so curious. People have an innate curiosity built into them. And of course, we're all different and people are good at different things. But I think so much of our curiosity and how we learn is stifled by our own limiting beliefs of what we can or can't do, or it's like so big and I can't figure it out. I think life is about collecting as many small wins as you can and not worrying about the big wins. And when I got started with this stuff, like I am a very curious person, and with these different jobs and all the things that I had to do, and just growing up and the way that I live my life, I've learned that like the asking questions and seeking the answers is a very rewarding experience. And I think most people think to themselves like, I wonder what's behind that door. One of the worst things I think I did initially learning Zapier was like go on YouTube, go on Reddit, like go on these places and try to learn, and you just get like bulldozed with information about like all of this stuff, right? And it's very scary. And again, there's always somebody that knows more than you. There's always somebody that has a bigger agency. There's always a bigger fish. And so for me, it's like, okay, I'm not going to worry about all the literature that's out there about coding and integrations and RPA, like robotic process automation and all this really high level stuff. Like, I'm just going to focus on getting Google Drive to work with ClickUp and getting a 200. And I'm going to go to GPT and I'm going to ask questions and I'm going to say, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. I'm going to build my analogies in my head for how my car works. And I'm just going to collect the little wins. Somebody knows way more than I do, but by the end of today, I'm going to understand a little bit more about how an API works. I'm going to understand what the S in HTTPS is. Like, collect your little wins, put them in your little box, and just keep filling your box up. And one day someone will look at you and go like, how did you know all this stuff?
So talking about doing the things that you thought you couldn't, I'm sure there's a lot of folks curious about like the art of possible. So let's talk about maybe your biggest highlight reel. Like what's the thing you're most proud of building? Your best automations, your best builds that you look back on and you're like, I didn't think that I would ever be able to do that.
So there's like a couple. One of them is the simplest automation I've ever built and has the most meaning to me out of any of them that I've ever built. And it's those that are like the simple ones that people go, wow, this changed my life. And it's like, this took me 5 minutes to make. What do you mean this changed your life? I was really into, I still am, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts and stuff. When I was younger, I did a lot of that. I got knocked out a lot. I have had many concussions. There's like a lot of the big things about my life I remember, but a lot of the small things in my life I don't. I don't remember a ton of my childhood unless someone asks the right questions. Like a lot of the little details that I want to remember about my life, I don't. And so after I got married and I started having kids, like my favorite fast food's Taco Bell. I love Taco Bell. And my oldest son, Oliver, he's 4 now. When he was like a little bit over 2, he waddled up to me and he was like, Taco Bell? And I was like, the first time my son ever asked me for Taco Bell, like, I don't want to forget this. I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget my life. I don't want to forget my children. Like, I don't want to forget these things. And I do. And journaling is great, but I don't always have my journal on me. And the way I live my life, like, I'm so busy, sometimes I don't have a pen. I leave it somewhere, and then I get off the feedback loop, and I forget, and I don't want to forget anymore. And so my proudest automation is it's in my ClickUp workspaces. Don't forget. Every day at 5 o'clock, I get the same text. Click this link and put your memory in. And every day, I write something down, one little thing from that day, from my kids, from whatever it is that I don't want to forget. And that's it. There's 3 boxes. You can upload an image, a picture, a video. You can select whether the day was good, bad, or meh. And then you can free write in what's something from today that you don't want to forget. And I started that this year. That was my New Year's resolution, is from now until the rest of my life, I'm not going to forget the little things. I'm not going to forget my daughter reaching up and touching my face for the first time. I'm not going to forget her saying, Dad, Dad. I'm not going to forget my son, saying I love you. Like, I'm not going to forget these things. I refuse to. Not in the age that we live in. And even with, like, remembering, like, today was the day that I believed that I could make this much money, or today was the day that me and my wife overcame this thing that we've been trying to work together on. That has been the single most important thing that I've ever done in automation, was figure out how to not forget the little things that make my life worth living, because it's not the big stuff, it's all the little stuff. That's my proudest one. I can go in today and look at January, I can open up any day and be like, holy crap, I forgot that I made Sam, my wife's name is Sam. I forgot that I made Sam laugh Lucky Charms out of her nose because I made a joke about something. Like I totally forgot that already. I already forgot that. I already forgot what I put in my memory from yesterday. I already forgot it. But I could go on my phone right now and queue up any of them. And it could turn into a product. Like I could automate like a book of like one that gets auto bound and like mailed out to me every year. But like 20 years from now, can you imagine? 20 years from now, you look at any particular day, you can see the picture, the video, and what you were, the small thing from that day you didn't want to forget. Imagine giving that to your kids. Imagine if you pass, like you can give that to your family members, your great grandchildren, like whoever it is. Like so simple. Schedule, start Zap every day at 5 p.m. Send SMS text message, include form link. It's two steps, dude. It's 2 steps, and it completely changed my life. And it's only possible because I was sitting around going like, I'm so tired of forgetting my children's faces that they make on certain days. I'm like, dude, I'm a software developer at this point. Why can't I just build, like, you tell me I can't automate my way around something, and so I did. And it ended up being the simplest thing I ever did. And now my family does it. Like my mom, my dad, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, both my sisters, my brother-in-law, like they all do it too. Like I set up the automation for them. So, most impactful one that I've ever made. Now I have some other ones that were fun. Like I maxed out. I remember the first time I maxed out Zapier's 100-step limit. That was for I built a bunch of custom CRMs like using ClickUp as the base. Like I've replaced Salesforce because of Zapier. I've replaced Salesforce for like a huge roofing company, huge public adjusting company. There's like a bunch of advanced calculus that goes into calculating price sheets and how much people are owed on different types of insurance claims. That is just basically a bunch of custom Python inside of Zaps. Is that the best way to do it? Probably not. But the beauty of Zapier, the absolute beauty of Zapier, and why I know how to use make.com. I know how to use other iPasses, like even Workato. I know I can use Workato, but like, why do I come back to Zapier? I can build something, hand it to somebody with no experience in automation, and they can kind of understand what's going on. Like you look at Make or even some of these other ones, you build something really complex and you open it, it's like, oh my gosh, like you need some really detailed explanation. But I can relatively simply build a complex set of automations, even if there's custom JS or custom Python, and give it to somebody and kind of walk them through very easily like what's going on in this. So that's probably like the craziest one I ever did, was maxing out 100 steps on a Zap. I built another one, like my landlord was driving me crazy, and there's an API endpoint called Lob, right? And it allows you to send mail. And so I was like, okay, I'm looking in there in the lease agreement, and it says like every time I send them a maintenance request, they literally have to scan it into their computer and they have to document it. So I'm going to send them 50 maintenance requests a day using this API because they're straight up violating my lease, not taking care of things that need to be done. And it was not good. Like they straightened up immediately after this, but I just started mailing them all these maintenance requests because I'm just a renter. Like when you're a renter, you get taken advantage of all the time. And there's like, you have zero power, and your landlords can basically do whatever you want. So that birthed that, and then an application called Rate My Rental that I'm working on. That's like a Yelp for renters. So like be able to actually review property management companies and have it like show up on Zillow. Anyway, that one was probably one of the most fun that I ever built because it had a direct impact on my life. It got my property manager to like, do what they agreed to do, fix my house when it broke. I mean, there's so many fun ones. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ones that I've built at this point, but those are the ones that immediately stick out to me when you ask the question.
Well, and it's incredible how the impact of these is not necessarily correlated with the complexity or the amount of effort you put in.
No,
it's, the simple things can be just as impactful as the big things at the end of the day. And so it kind of just speaks to, no matter who you are, like there's probably a thing that you can do that's impactful with automation, even if you're just getting started.
Yeah, even like I have one that reminds me and my wife when the trash goes out. Like every other Tuesday, and then on the right day, we just get a text like, here's when the trash goes out. And when I'm setting this up for businesses, like at this point, I've implemented Zapier for so many businesses. There's always like little simple things that are like, oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. It's like, yeah, this isn't anything fancy. This is 5 or 6 steps. Maybe plug in AI somewhere to like help with some part of it, but um, sometimes they are really complex, but they don't always have to be crazy. And again, it's like when I'm looking to hire somebody or like I'm scaling my business, it's really if you understand how to think about a problem, it's learning, it's training your brain to think the right way, and then the technical skills follow up. But if you understand how to think about the problem, and you understand the way that APIs work, and you can think through it on a whiteboard, then the technical stuff is easy. Like anybody can write JSON, like it's not hard. Anybody can learn to do this stuff. Understanding how to think about the problem, that's it. That's everything, in my opinion. Yeah.
So, yeah, let's transition and talk about the types of people who should maybe be doing more of this type of stuff, who should be building automations, who should be building systems. Folks are like curious to do this. Are there types of people or types of skills that you think are like the best place to start?
Yeah. Generally, if you're the type of person that likes to make up their bed, like if you like to be organized and you like systems, right? You're probably a great candidate. I'd also say like, again, the way you talk and you think is very important. If you're like, I remember in Algebra 2 in high school, we drew a little input-output machine. And even since then, I like to think about things in terms of inputs and outputs. If you're like a very logical type of person, if you get in arguments with your significant other because you're like, these are just the facts and this is what I said and this is what you did, right? Like if you're an input-output type of person and you think very logically that way, this is a great place to go. If you like to abstract problems and break them down out of your head, if you like solving problems, I think this is a great field for you, which is a lot of people. I would say if you enjoy the process of mapping out how you would solve a problem, even if you're not the one solving it, it's a great place to start. And it's hard for me, Wade, because I think so many people would do well with this. They just think they're not the right type of person to be honest with you, it doesn't just take a super logical person. Like this is just stuff that I look for, but it doesn't take any of those things. It just takes an understanding of if you can visualize, I have a car, but I like the mirrors from a different one, and I like the tires from a different one, and I like the steering wheel from a different one. If you can understand that architecture, then you can do this and apply that to your business, right? I like the document signing feature of DocuSign. I like the CRM capabilities of ClickUp. I like the payment abilities of Stripe. And you can think that way, and you can build your own little car, then you can automate it. Like if you think it, you can build it 100%. Zapier has so many connections at this point, like, and the fact that you can do Python and stuff like that, you can create your own webhooks. There's really nothing you can't at least get a beta of, at least try to build.
So you mentioned to me before that you're building an AI consultant that helps people get started with stuff like this. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, that's still something I'm working on. It's not live yet, but I think pulling people out of their own misbeliefs about what's possible is a huge problem. I try to tell people like, I'm a very narrative driven person. I think in stories. I think in Star Wars. I think in The Great Escape. I love movies, and I think I always put myself in a story somewhere. And one of my favorite quote ever is the bigger the dragon, the greater the hero, right? If you have this huge dragon and you kill it, you're big. Like it's a better story. No one likes a story where there's like a little, halfling size dragon. You just come and cut its head off, right? It's you want to have a big dragon because it's a better story. So with the AI consultant thing, it's like let's break down your life, let's break down your problems into dragons, and picture yourself as a hero, and let's figure out how to defeat it. And so for me, I struggle sometimes with hiring and with getting people to understand what their capabilities are. So I'm trying to build a kind of an interactive, and I started thinking about this when I was building an AI homeschooling thing for my kids, because I wanted them, like my wife, to be able to just generate lessons on the fly and like homeschool with AI. of like, okay, if you want to learn Zapier, if you want to learn automation, you can start at any point. You can start at any point, and whether it's you want to have your own agency or you just want to implement something for your company, where do I start? Well, it's a very, again, it's a Socratic thing. What do you already know? Do you like Legos? Do you like building a car? Do you like makeup? Do you like swimming? What's your thing? And then building kind of a automation blueprint, if you want, with AI based on the type of person that you're talking to. Because it really is, again, this is the 32 job speaking. It really is going, oh, he likes this. We're going to break it down in terms of this. Oh, he's a cook. We're going to break it down like a recipe, right? That's kind of where I feel like the AI consultant could play a huge role in teaching automation, or at least showing somebody what they might need to do in Zapier. Because it's just about, again, making people feel a certain way, leaving an impact, leaving an analogy in a way that clicks with them versus just talking at them and like, here's the lessons 1, 2, 3, you know?
No. Joe, your story is incredible. Congrats on all the success. Thanks for sharing it with us. To wrap up, if someone's really into getting, or is really excited about getting started with automation, what's your number one tip to help them get going?
Just start. Just immediately get your hands dirty. Open Zapier and just start doing stuff. Look at the technology you use every day. Is it Gmail? Is it ClickUp? Is it Google Drive? What is it? And just make something work. If you want, go into ChatGPT. This is what I used to do. Give me any 2 apps and give me a scenario. Like, just think of scenarios in your head. Because that's what I would do a lot. I still do that. So I have an automation that just tells me whenever somebody creates a new app in ClickUp, whenever anybody creates a new like connection, and it's just like, okay, this is a newsletter app. Let's try their API. Let's do something with that. And that's part of my flow still, is continuing to experiment with ways of building. Do that. Literally think of 2 apps that you use every day. Look up, does ClickUp have an API? Does Google Docs have an API? If the answer is yes, go to Zapier and try to make them work together somehow. That's the only way to do it. Everybody's different, right? But for me, don't get lost in the YouTube. Don't get lost in Reddit. Don't get lost in all these super high level things. Collect your little wins, try to make something small work, and then continue to ask questions. I think that's the biggest thing. As a now semi-technical person, like legitimately, I have a portfolio company. I own equity in 6 different businesses. I have income. I quit my job. My children can eat. My wife drives the car that she wants to drive. I can afford to put food on the table. I can fly to see my parents when I need to see them. Like, I can buy nice things for people. I remember when I was living in my car, dude, like, I was crushed at Christmas time. Like, Christmas time would come around and I was like, everybody would get me presents. Like, my sister got me presents. My dad got me presents. My mom got me presents. Like, everybody got me something. And I could never buy anybody else anything. Like, everybody always took care of Joe, and all I could do was say thanks, everybody. And it felt horrible. It felt horrible. I couldn't reciprocate. I was miserably in credit card debt, and I couldn't reciprocate. And like, now I like every year at Christmas, I'm like, I can buy everybody in my family a gift, you know? Like, I can go and see my family when I want to. Like, if somebody in my family's in trouble, I can help them. I have businesses that support me. I paid for my wedding. I have so much. And it all came back to like, Zapier looked a lot different 3-4 years ago, but like coming back and being like, oh, 501, like, why? What is that? And what is a server? And what does a server do? And like, a 200, great, but like, what does it mean? Oh, there's a call and a response. Oh, I'm calling an API to use one of its, application program interface. Okay, I'm using the app the way someone would on their screen. I'm just using a different door that looks at like, and every time, like around Christmas time, I go through this thing again where I'm like, I could afford nothing for anybody and I could help no one. And like, now I can have a positive effect on people's lives, and like my children benefit from it. And it's this, man, like, what you've done for me personally, I could lose my entire business today. Zapier could completely go away. You guys could shut down the service, but it doesn't matter. Like, the die is cast. You and your team and your product team and everything that you guys are doing have already had such a profound impact on me that's forever altered the course of my life. And I always wondered, what am I going to be doing? And I had the same question. My dad would ask me, like, what's the big plan here? And it's like, I can now create wealth. I can create value. I can provide insight into lots of different things. I've combined all of my experience and all of my jobs with technical ability that I've only learned because Zapier paved the way for me to be able to ask questions, get answers. And now I have like a life that I'm proud of, and I have things that I can share with my kids, and I can talk to my dad about this stuff. Like, I'm going on a tangent here, I'm sorry, but like, my dad's very technical. He's done systems engineering. He worked for a startup called Cosine and 3Com, and he was in Silicon Valley, and he was working on kernels. You know, like he was working on like early code stuff that were like, he wasn't dealing in compiled languages. Like, well, I assume you and I are both dealing with compiled languages, right? He didn't use pre-compiled language. And I can call him and talk to him about systems, and I can talk to him about engineering, and I can talk to him about code, and I can talk to him about Python errors, and I can talk to him about libraries and all this stuff, and like we can bond about it now. And I'm sure my dad would tell you that he's proud of me. But again, it's what you've built, dude. Like, this has completely changed my life. And I probably read way more into it than most people do, but this software legitimately has altered my family's history. So thank you. I'll stop rambling, but I really appreciate everything you've done for my family. And I love working with your software.
Thanks for sharing that, Joe. Congrats, man. I am stoked to get to meet you. What you've done is super impressive. And I think there's a lot that folks can learn from you. Thanks for listening to Agents of Scale. Joe's story shows how automation and AI don't just change individual careers, they shape entire industries. If you found this inspiring, please share the episode with someone who's leading transformation in their own organization. And don't forget to follow Agents of Scale wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss a story of scaling with AI. I'm Wade Foster. See you next time.